Hey guys, welcome back to another episode of Talking Throttle with me, Alex. Now, I did say last week that Oscar Piastri was going to be back and he was going to be on a vengeance. Now, when I said vengeance, I didn't mean that, but to understand what I'm talking about, stay with me as I break down the United States US of A. But with that being said, stay with me now as we break down what happened at the US Grand Prix in Texas. Stay with me. Sweet Texas. Hey guys, welcome back then to another episode of Talking Throttle. I am going to stop you in your tracks, just so you can do me a little favour. But if you haven't already, stop this video, pause it right here, click pause, and go to the bottom of this video, hit the subscribe button, and make sure you've got that on, you've got the post notifications on, and you've also liked it because, what the hell not, But welcome back to another episode nonetheless. Now, let's get into the tea. Let's get into what actually happened at the Grand Prix. So coming into the weekend, we have practice session. Cool, practice. Nobody cares about it. Okay, just forget it happened, right? Then we got a practice session. Then we had sprint qualifying. Now, sprint qualifying was interesting enough. I loved LOVED the fact that Nico Hulkenberg is making another appearance in the top 10 of anything in general. I mean, the last time we've seen him do that was at the British Grand Prix. I seen that with my own two eyes. I seen it with my own two kahunas. I think with us getting closer to the end of the season now, we know that Kick-Saber's going to be taken over by Audi. Every now and then, I think we are seeing a little bit of that money, a little bit of that new energy creep into Kick-Saber, because for him to qualify in the top 10, granted, Bortoleto didn't qualify as well, but between the two of them, we do see good performances, and I don't think anybody's talking enough about it because it is extremely impressive. Then we get into the sprint race. Now, I said in my last video, I love a sprint weekend, and I love a sprint for this exact reason, because we get more racing, and especially at a race like the one in Texas, it gave us the drama. We even got past turn 1 right away. Now, I'm going to attach this video and I'm probably going to put it over this video so you can see it for yourself. But Piastri got an amazing start. Lando, not as such. Max Verstappen is Max Verstappen. Is going to do what the hell he came to do. Do you know what I mean? Looking at it, first glance for me, I immediately clocked that it was Piastri who was at fault here. I think I said it last episode, but I did say Piastri's coming back and he's got a point to prove. He's going to be on a vengeance. And what I meant by that was he's going to be on smoke. So looking at the sprint race, but that's the type of energy I was expecting him to come back with. You're leading the championship, you've got Max Verstappen breathing down your neck, and then you've also got your teammate who's also breathing down your neck, who some may argue your team is favouring, but that's a conversation for another day. I was Oscar. I'm coming into this weekend and I'm about to show you exactly why I'm the championship leader, whether you like it or not. An amazing start. However, I think and I don't want to say this was potentially the rookie element in him, because I wouldn't consider Oscar Piastri to be a rookie anymore. But what I would say is that was a very inexperienced move, because I can understand why he would have wanted to take that move. But then when you've got cars on either side, it's way too much of a risk to take that type of move on the first corner. That he took out not only himself, but he took out his teammate. Now, to play devil's advocate here, silver lining with Oscar taking out Lando as opposed to anybody else is that, well, Lando can't score points now, so the guy who's right behind me in the championship, boy, if I ain't scoring points, you ain't scoring points. Okay, that's how much I know is true. And I'm not trying to say that Piastri did this on purpose. I definitely don't think he did. But then, given the scenario, I think it was a good thing that it was his teammate that he knocked out as opposed to anybody else, because, Lando didn't miss out on points there as well. Nobody at McLaren's going to point fingers, but if we were to point fingers, Oscar, you're up. What surprised me was the difference in performance comparison to Oscar and to Lando. Like, what? Oscar qualified in 6th and Lando qualified 2nd? Hold on a minute. That doesn't align with performances that we've seen from either or throughout the season. Like, with all due respect, Piastri's not as quick as he was earlier on this season, but let's not forget, that's the boy that's managed to lead a championship in the 2nd year with his team. Like, let's not take away from the fact that that's impressive within itself. Just because he's not performing now doesn't mean to say he hasn't been putting in a performance this season. I don't get it. Like, I can't understand why Piastri didn't have as much pace as Lando. The question I have now is, are we starting to see the cracks? Are we starting to see Piastri get a little bit shaky now? We're heading towards the end of the season. He is leading the championship, granted. However, his performances as of late haven't been up there. And in my last podcast, I did say, like, yeah, Piastri's going to come back on a vengeance. He's one of the best drivers of this generation, and I still stand by that wholeheartedly. I don't think any driver is consistently going to be 10 out of 10 out of 10 out of 10 out of 10 unless they've got a rocket ship that they're driving. No names. I think we are starting to see the cracks with Piastri, but I don't think that's a true reflection of, one, his performance throughout this entire season, or two, his ability. So I don't think that should be a true reflection of how well or how bad Oscar's performing right now. He's had a few boo-boos. You know, the next race we've got is Mexico. Mexico's going to be a difficult one because Red Bull always seems to perform well there, i.e. Max, or at the time, I'm sure Sergio performed quite well there as well. Piastri, come on now, mate. Like, you are leading the championship and the power is in your hand and you've got more leeway here. However, what you don't want is for it to get to the end of the season and we get towards Qatar and we get towards Abu Dhabi and the lines of this, the margins of this, are this small. Now, I know that Norris is breathing down Oscar's neck, but I genuinely don't think it's Norris that Piastri needs to worry about. It's Max. Because respectfully, Max is far more consistent than Lando. Yes, Lando's had a great race this weekend, but that's not to say next weekend is going to have the same type of result, especially with Piastri not having as much pace in the exact same car. No, the race finished with Max winning by at least about 15 seconds, which I have said previously I think we are going to see more of towards the end of the season because that Red Bull has regained its pace again. Norris did really, really well. However, the star of the show for me was Charles Leclerc. He was holding it down. There were several occasions where Lando had tried to take an overtake and get that second position, and Charles was like, where you going? Because you're not trying to overtake me. I know that much. I think I even put it on my Instagram story at one point, but fair play to Charles Leclerc because that was impressive. Those soft tyres should have died out a lot quicker than the medium ones did. Granted, they did all in all, but to see him defend the way that he did at I think it was lap. It was definitely in the teens. I can't remember what lap it was, but to see him defend so well with the tyres that he had, I was quite impressed with. And with that being said, I was also impressed altogether with Ferrari. Like, I think, dare I say, Ferrari actually had a good weekend this weekend. Like, let's talk about it because I spent so many weekends, so many times now have I stood here, darling, and I had to talk about the heartbreak that is Ferrari. However, this weekend they actually showed pace. Not just Charles, but also Lewis Hamilton as well. Don't know why I had to think about that. But the disappointing thing for Ferrari, at least in terms of Lewis's case, was that towards the end, he got a puncher, or at least he thought he had a puncher. But what I took away from it is that I think they did a reverse strategy. So I think Charles went onto the softs first, then went onto the mediums. Lewis did the same thing, but in reverse. One of the key takeaways for me, when Lewis pitted and went to the medium tyres to the soft tyres, I thought to myself, it's hammer time. For the first time this season, we've seen Charles and Lewis with some actual pace. And I think this weekend the Ferrari was not only quicker than the Mercedes, but it was actually quicker than the McLarens. And I think it was unfortunate for Lewis to get the punch out when he did, because I think he managed to get it from, it was 9 seconds at one point, maybe like lap 40, and then he managed to get it down to about just above 7 seconds. And then I thought, oh, it's hammer time. And then it slowly started to go back, and 7 turned to 8, 8 turned to 9, and before the race finished, it may as well have been 15. But that's because he got the puncher. And for the first time, their strategy was spot on. I don't think Lewis or Charles should be disappointed with the result that they had this weekend. This is a brilliant start, and this is the trajectory that I want to see Ferrari stay on for not only the rest of the season, but for next year as well. But I wanted to mention this week, which I did touch on last week, but the news came out literally a day after I posted the podcast, and that was George Russell has officially signed, and Kimi Antonelli has signed with Mercedes for at least 2026. And we discussed this last week, and I said that Toto is keeping the door wide open to other options, i.e. Max Verstappen, because nobody knows what car is going to perform that well next season. Now, George has said in interviews that he thinks the only team that he really wants to be driving for next season, given its regulations, will be Mercedes. The thing that I think is definitely worth talking about this week is Max Verstappen, and Max Verstappen dominance is back. We are seeing 2022 come back. We are seeing 2023 come back. We are seeing Max from 2024 come back, okay? I said this a couple of weeks ago, but it's starting to feel like I'm watching those seasons again. Will we see this continue for the rest of the season? I personally think so. I think this is it. And unless McLaren literally pull their finger out their arse, I can't see anything to me that suggests that Red Bull and Max are not going to dominate for the rest of the season. I'll be honest, I do want Oscar to win the championship. There's no driver that deserves it more than Oscar Piastri, simply because he has no business. He has no business doing that. He has no business winning the championship over his teammate. He's been there for several years. That Piastri hasn't put in such an amazing performance in the first half of the season just for that to be erased by Max Verstappen at the last minute. And then we've got Brazil after that. And Brazil's a tricky race as it is. So, like, I really want Piastri to do well. Like, I really, really do. But it's going to be difficult. And if they continue with the performance that they are giving right now, it's not looking good. So, because last time I checked, I think McLaren's pace is still in Italy. Because ever since we went to Baku, the McLaren pace hasn't been there, and they need to find out where it was. Because it's not to be seen. That McLaren were gonna come back and they were gonna show us how it's done. I thought McLaren, i.e. Piastri, were going to come back and said, no, this is my championship. This isn't your year. It's my year. I'm going to show you how it's done. But I didn't see that. And I wanted to see that, but I didn't see it. And that's frustrating. Respectfully, Max is an amazing driver, but I'm tired of seeing Max winning. He's been doing it for the past couple of weeks again. I'm tired. I didn't think I'd say this, but please, McLaren, sort it out. There is one more thing I wanted to talk about, which is actually really, really disappointing to see this weekend. But again, I think there was a silver lining in this. And that was Williams crashing out. Carlos Sainz was out of the actual race. However, he did manage to get himself a podium in the sprint, which was great because at least he managed to get points to some degree. But for him to crash out of the actual race, Alex Albon not do all too well. I don't even think Alex managed to score points. Isn't it crazy how Carlos is outperforming Alex in the car that Alex has been at for years? And that's not me saying Alex is a bad driver, because I certainly don't think he is. But I think it is a testament to Carlos and how good of a driver he is. Carlos can go into any team, Ferrari, McLaren, Williams, and give him a minute, he'll get to the use of the car and he'll just take it and he'll take off. We want Carlos to do well. And the cheer that he got from the fans was like everything for me. You guys know, I've said it several times, my second team is Williams because I love Carlos Sainz and I just love Williams as a team. Let's get into my predictions for the Mexican Grand Prix, which is happening next week. This is coming out on Tuesday, but before we know it, we'll blink and we'll be at a Grand Prix again, which is the type of energy we love, right? So I think I've made my predictions or my standing on the Mexican Grand Prix pretty clear. There's only going to be one winner next week, and I think it is going to be Max Verstappen again. The question is, who is it that's going to be taking second, and who is it that's going to be taking third? Now, predictions are Max Verstappen, Lando Norris, and let's put Lewis in there. Let's put Lewis in there, man. Let's put Lewis in there. So my predictions for the Mexican Grand Prix this weekend is Max Verstappen, Lando Norris, and Lewis Hamilton. I think we are very, very close to seeing a Lewis Hamilton podium again. Now, it may be a bit too soon for me to say so, considering what they've only had one good performance. But what I am leaning towards is we are seeing Lewis Hamilton slowly but surely get used to that Ferrari car. And both of the cars had pace this weekend, and I am convinced that if Lewis did not get that puncher towards the final laps of the race, it would have been hammer time. he would have gone straight onto those soft tyres, and I think he would have had the pace to not only catch up, but potentially overtake Charles Leclerc. But it would have been really, really tight considering how long it took Norris to finally overtake Leclerc anyway. So take that with a pinch of salt. But I do think we will see a Lewis podium this year. Fingers crossed, touch wood. But if you agree with me, let me know. If you don't agree with me, also let me know. But yeah, it stinks of a Max Verstappen win next weekend, and I can't see any reason as to why that won't be the case. But if you agree with me, brilliant. If you don't, that's okay. Let me know how you think it's going to go instead. But if you have got to the end of this video, or if you got to this point, I really, really appreciate it. Thank you so much for doing so. Make sure, if you haven't already, that you like, comment, and subscribe on this video so you get notifications as to when we post again next time in Throttle. I will see you all next week as we review the Mexican Grand Prix. As I said, I'm expecting pure Red Bull / Max Verstappen dominance, and I don't see anything that suggests that's not going to happen. Anything, I will see you in next week where we go to Tango in Mexico. See you later!